Hello, and I'd like to welcome you to my Let's Play about Minecraft, which we are going to be playing in the single player mode because I'm very interested into playing this game again after so much years I haven't been playing it, and I've heard that there's a lot of new updates which I'm just eager to explore, which is the reason why I'm so desperate to play this really forgotten, ancient, lonely game, lonely gem of a game. And I would say that we should not talk too much and just start the game mode. Right off the start, we are going to be creating this new world. And I'm just gonna call it Minecraft because I like Chrome. Cheat off. Now we are creating and loading the terrain. It's been such a long time since I've actually played this game. And honestly, I have absolutely no idea what awaits me in front of those walls. It's been also quite some time since I actually recorded the video again. I mean, the last time I checked on people was through my comment section. I was a bit moody. Wait, yeah, that's a bit laggy, right? Just gonna check the settings. There we go. Now we are going to be cutting down some interesting oak tree with our karate chops. Because we know, of course, martial arts. And now we have gathered some interesting items. Ancient spruce look, which we can craft into wonderful planks. Which we can craft again into a wonderful crafting table. Which is the first ingredient to our base building thingies. Because we can craft a beautiful stick with it, with which we can craft then an axe and maybe a pickaxe. Because we can. I'm just gonna craft a sword with this, and maybe a shovel, and then we are good to go. Maybe you can find some animals over here to get something to eat. But Minecraft gameplay is so overdone. I think I should get myself something else to talk to besides that. And I apologize in advance if the settings are maybe a bit too clunky and the game is a bit too laggy. I'm still kinda new to playing this sort of game with a recording on. I have found snow foxes, that's beautiful. There we go. So basically, you've been noticing me that I decided to actually, turn on the comment section and write some comments about other YouTube videos because I was interested. I think there was a YouTube video about something sad, and I think I wrote some stuff, yeah, and it was pretty interesting because I've got actually a lot of replies, which I did not expect, because I honestly wasn't expecting it because I was just bored out of my mind. And I thought, hey, maybe I just write something on there, because usually I don't do it. And I was so bored out of my mind that I actually thought, okay, come on, let's just do something, just for the fun of it. And who would have guessed it actually connected with the people, whatever I rambled about there, whatever I said about there. Which is cool to know, because I actually did not expect such an interesting response. Quite more positive than I expected. I think it was about 16 or 37 likes. I honestly did not expect any likes, so yeah. But apparently, no, it's very interesting. So it was on this one video, I think, about some sort of animation meme about the song Golden Brown, and I think I was talking about a little bit of my dating experience, which wasn't so great. And honestly, I have a feeling that a lot of people could relate to that. I also saw a lot of other comments talking about their experiences. Felt very comfortable, and most people were genuinely very kind. I think there was this one person who tried to, infiltrate me to become some sort of Christian, which I felt actually quite uncomfortable to, but I chose not to respond to him because out of kindness, I just ignored that message. But there were other people who were trying to reflect and actually genuinely try to connect with me, which I saw, and I liked that. Yeah. I can show you the comment if there's a need for it. I believe that romantic relationships are pretty difficult to understand, and I have a feeling that a ton of people have actually issues connecting with other people because of their past traumas and everything. Very difficult stuff to talk to. Very difficult stuff to talk to, which I like to talk to about. Considering everything, it's actually very interesting because we tend to overlook how we treat other people, specifically in relationships of close distance, because we think that it's actually not so important because we're so obsessed with our work or obsessed with our hobbies or something else, or duty, or rivalry. But it actually blinds us to this wonderful feeling of actually connecting with another human being on a normal, humane, authentic level. I have a feeling that, especially in today's world, it's quite difficult to find human beings to connect with because of a loneliness epidemic and everything. But if you could change your environment, you could make it a bit more bearable, but obviously you won't be able to solve a problem because let's face it, it's not just your problem. It's a worldwide problem. And it helps to understand that with current politics and economics, that it makes sense to be a bit less harsh on yourself when it comes to meeting other people and dating and getting rejected. It's always a pleasure to figure out what went wrong in the past or in a past relationship. It doesn't even have to be always concerned about love. In general, it's always a good idea to pause and reflect and figure out what's up, especially for the New Year's recommendations. Because it's pretty difficult to understand what you did wrong in a relationship of any sorts if you don't reflect on all the parts which you actually did good on. And I myself have found myself pretty guilty of being unable to reflect the good things about my existence, because there are actually quite many. But like I said, it's normal to not be able to be good at those things, because we as humans have been designed by nature and evolution to seek out the negative patterns, because negative means death, and we prefer to be alive, and thus we tend to prioritize negative things over the positive things to make sure that we remain alive. But this sort of thinking is not necessarily healthy. It's actually just a survival instinct. It's of course, healthy in the moment, so that you won't die in the moment, because you should, for example, eat something or drink something. But the second that you obviously have your basic needs satisfied, it's not very useful in the long term. So it makes sense to actually scratch it a bit. Which we, in our society, actually do, honestly speaking, a bit too much. In fact, we have thrown our survival instinct that far away that it's now becoming a little problem because it's now coming back. You can also see this in the kind of food that we consume. Oftentimes the foods are bombarded with sugars, which are definitely not healthy for our minds or for our bodies or for our psyche. Not at all. But we consume them anyway because we don't have anything else to eat. And once again, it's not a problem with you, it's just a problem with the environment. You can definitely try to change your diet. You can try to eat apples or bananas instead of cookies or jars or cakes, definitely to some point. And the more organic something is, the better it is. But the issue is that even if you do that, there is definitely going to be some sort of insectant repellent inside your food, because we need to do that so that we can make sure that your food isn't infested with some worms or flies. And that's definitely not healthy for your body, because it's acid. That's not supposed to be healthy for any creature. I mean, yeah, you can definitely eat it and it won't harm you, in the moment. But I'm pretty sure that with time that could consult the reason as to why we live a bit shorter. I hope that I formulated that not too bad, because it's my first time actually speaking in the English language and recording. I mean, I speak in the English language quite often, but not necessarily in front of camera. It's quite weird actually. I usually speak English with other people, which is the reason why I find this a tiny bit weird. But I try my best to sort of live with it. I mean, times are changing, it's difficult to find otherwise people if you're not at least somewhat connected via technological means and demands. Yeah. And speaking of relationships, oh geez, I have absolutely no idea what I'm doing. I think I should definitely go down here and build myself at least a tiny base so that I won't get shot by the nearest skeleton. I don't want to get no-scoped today. No, thank you. Not today. I can already hear it. What a nightmare. Get away. I don't like what I'm hearing, but I can't actually identify it. It sounds like some weird pixels. But everything sounds like weird pixels here. But when it comes to relationships of any sorts, I think I was talking about in the comment section about my experiences with a certain person, which I definitely chose to disclose their name because I'm not gonna say who they are or anything. I want that they remain anonymous. And it was not a positive experience. It was completely shook. Like it was so bad with the person that I chose to find for the proposed person who actually fell in love with me another guy who's far more suitable for him. And I thought to myself, it's okay if I don't have what it takes to be quote-unquote a man and build relationship. It's fine. I don't need it. It's okay. But there's going to be somebody else who can do a far more better job than I, and I thought at that second, hey, the least I can do is give her at least a person who's actually, able to love her and actually able to do it. And the funny thing is, I was expecting that people were going to be telling me things like, what? No, you should absolutely do it, or you should absolutely be there. But that's not what happened. What people told me is that, okay, I'm sorry to hear that, that really hurts. You really tried to make everybody happy in the end again, but it didn't work out, which, well, it's true. I tried to do that, and oftentimes it doesn't work out. Because, yeah, sometimes people can be ungrateful. That's pretty garbage, especially considering all the good things that happened. But that's the predicament of a person who tries to be nice but just ends up, you know, alone. But that's fine, because I'm actually happy this way. The funny thing is, I'm happy this way in the sense of that I'm actually feeling a bit more happy that I can get off my chest in a more healthy way. Speaking to the audience is definitely a good demand for that. But I mean it also not in the sense that I'm happy that I have made this terrible experience. No, not that. I'm just happy that I could find a way to deal with it somehow. I was also taking a long hiatus from not just YouTube, but in general, from everything. But honestly speaking, I don't believe that that's something too unusual. In fact, I honestly believe that it's the most boring thing of the world to speak about the things that you are not, you know, good at, because everybody is traumatized, everybody has problems to deal with, and I'm pretty sure that it's unhealthy to say that you're the only one who deals with the problem. The truth is no, of course not. There are a million people who have issues. And I believe that's a far more better mindset. Of course, we are all, you know, individuals, and not every single person is the same, so to speak, because they have their experiences and their childhood matters. But in general, we all are still human beings, and we feel pain and all the emotions with it, which is pretty great, to be honest, because I like emotions, and to be honest, I also like the painful emotions. I'm not trying to say that I'm a masochist, but there was something very satisfying about actually having my first breakup. There was a part of me which actually enjoyed the pain, you know, which actually enjoyed, hey, you know, you tried to love this person and it didn't work out because, you know, you are not good enough, to be honest. Too bad it showed you're not good enough. And then it's time to say, okay, well, let's do the opposite and say you are good enough. Then it's okay to admit that you know, weren't able to do that. And honestly speaking, there are a lot of people who try to tell themselves if they had done this specific thing differently, that, you know, that magically the relationship would have been saved, which is quite a naive way to think about it, because that's not what's gonna happen. What would be happen is that there's obviously going to be another reason why the relationship would be damaged and not be saved. Like, and I used to be the person who tried to make everybody happy in this, but I'm trying right now just to make myself happy. It's not always easy, and I'm definitely not for talking about it in the sense that, yeah, that it's not all rainbow and sunshine. Even if I would like to be that way, it just ain't. But it's also not all. But it's also not all hells and nightmares. It's actually quite decent, and I actually like it the way it is. Wow, what a great mistake. The thing is, there we go. The thing is, it was also so interesting to. Okay, I think my frame rate is finally stabilizing. Thank goodness. Thank goodness, oh, we found copper. That's nice. The thing is, I was actually not really expecting everything to be turning out so chaotic, so I think I'm just gonna start over with the story. So at the beginning I was just existing in my habitat. We were playing some chessboard games, and I've got pretty good at it, or halfway decent. I did not manage to win the contest, but I at least managed to get far ahead of some other people. Then some woman noticed me, and I thought, okay, who's this person? And then somebody told me, hey, yeah. And then she sort of knocked on my shoulders. This girl, she loves you. And I thought, what? What the hell? No. She told me, yes, she does. She has feelings for you. And I told her, okay, fine, but I don't know. Like, what the hell am I supposed to say? Am I supposed to say yes? Well, obviously not. I don't know this person. So I go. So obviously I go up to that girl because I'm a bit curious. You know, I don't have necessarily feelings, but I'm just curious. And she tells me that she feels a connection. You know, she feels something. And the truth is, there was a connection. There was a fascination with me because I thought, what the hell? Somebody can actually feel, you know, admiration for me, love for me, attention for me. I thought to myself, nah, that's unreal. Nah, that can't be. Where's the catch? And there was no catch, and there was also no catch up, which was very sad because I was actually ruining a. I thought that I was ruining maybe a opportunity to build a good friendship here, but that's not the case because as soon as I found out she wanted definitely more than a friendship, she wanted love, and you know, the person who stood behind her, which I at the moment did not understood. And who would have guessed she was, as I told her, that I'm very unsure about, you know, building a relationship with my current mindset. Because first of all, I'm generally speaking not necessarily into girls, which is the first problem. And the second problem is just that a part of me likes, yes, definitely the feminine aspect about girls, but it's not. I'm sort of gay. And despite that, even if I weren't, a part of me thinks that, hey, maybe you should invest some time with a person who you wanna quote unquote learn to love. Because I don't know that person, and so I basically dumped her and told her, sorry, but I don't have feelings for you, in the most stupid way possible. This stupid skeleton, like exactly like this stupid skeleton up here is banging my head. That's the same way I actually told her, hey, I have no feeling. I shot this arrow. You know, the Cupid's arrow. I shot the Cupid arrow away. And that absolutely destroyed her mindset, which is completely reasonable. But, because she obviously had feelings and I was too, let's say, naive to recognize that. I recognize it now, but now it's too late. And the thing is, there was some time where I actually regretted it and I wanted to give it a shot, but then, yeah, I tried to build a relationship with it, even though I knew that I actually had other criterias and priorities. But, you know, I wanted to be kind, I wanted to give it a shot, I wanted to give it a chance. It didn't work out because I was way too unsure and I needed more time to process this. I could not just, you know, I can't just I just can't bring myself to say somebody, I admire you, I love you on a genuine level when I don't even know the person. So I can easily say the words I love you if it meant platonically, like as a friend, it's no issue. Like if it's meant a friend, no issue. Like family member, no issue. Like father, mother, it's okay. But I don't even know the person, it's a complete stranger. I obviously need time, and I need a lot of time. Months or years. And even then, I'm just not the kind of person who likes to be constantly called darling or something like that. I don't know, it's just not my thing. Like, if the criteria are right, I guess I could maybe shut an eye to that, but even then, I'm still sort of uncomfortable doing it. Because it's so weird. It's unusual. I definitely say it like that. It's really unusual. And maybe I just get too much confusion with that. But it was a nice feeling, at least, while it lasted, to be at least admired that long. It was really beautiful in a sense. Even though I did not comprehend it, because I had no good mother. My mother was very terrible. I can tell you that. She was very strict, but she was goddamn funny. And I absolutely loved that about her. To an undimensional degree. Damn, she could be very hard too. Very mean. Which I did not recognize too fast because I was a child and stupid. But honestly, looking back at it, I definitely forgive myself because I had no idea what I was doing, and my mom was definitely a bit too harsh. But I'm not taking it too bad on her. There used to be a time where I definitely was more aggressive about this. There was definitely a time where... The thing is, I don't understand how till this day. But I'm definitely down communicating with her, and that's also a good thing to do, you know? You don't always have to forgive people everything. You can't forgive people a certain degree of things, and maybe you should in certain situations, but in some situations it's completely reasonable to go different ways, and I have a feeling that when it comes to parents and their childs, especially considering that it's very difficult to raise children anyways, maybe it's the best idea to then leave them if they are grown up enough. Because honestly, if you want your child to grow strong, and it's not gonna grow strong if it's ultimately every day, you know, in your care, in your care. It's not going to be strong. It's going to be, you know, not necessarily weak, but it's just going to be so dependent upon you that you can't breathe. That's not good. Essentially, you're just loving the child when too much. That's not good either, which is a big issue. There we go. Now I can finally make charcoal. Outside it's very cold. I want warmth in a furnace, like how it's supposed to be. Yeah. And the thing is, it's not necessarily a bad thing to be resentful about somebody else. It's okay. These are emotions. They are there for a reason. Maybe it's even good to be. Because what it means is that somebody told you something maybe that you didn't like, or they have done something utterly wrong and they may need to apologize, and then you have the sense of justice which is often accompanied with that, and that's also a very reasonable and good thing which you should sharpen, because it's judgment, and we need judgment because that's what our civilization or humanity is actually, you know, turning on. But at the same time, it's just human, meaning that it's also flawed with mistakes and systems which are not necessarily always correct. It's also necessary to be forgiving and to not only correct them of those mistakes, but to how do I say it? To know when to be judgmental and to know when not to be judgmental. I'm just gonna say it like flat out like that. And that's at least my experience with my mother, and I have a feeling that that sort of correlates to the experience I have with romantic interests. Yeah, so much to that. I'm not sure. There we go. I'm not sure how other people are treating that. I have absolutely no idea. But for my part, I even have a feeling that I'm always going to be like alone with myself. Even though a part of me has the feeling that yes, you are going to be alone for yourself as long as the wrong persons come along. It's actually better to be alone, and that's also a good thing to know. I prefer to be rather alone with myself and, forever alone, period, meant to be with a person I'm supposed to love, which I actually don't have feelings for. Because the thing is, you can always love yourself, and you need to, because everything else is just a projection. It's just a joke, a myth. It's not real. You know, even if it seems real, it's not. No. If you don't love yourself first, before anything, like, nothing good comes out of that, because maybe you understand that, and maybe it seems like, you know, all of these things seem like good because, you know, you are doing progress and it's going the right direction. And yes, the society definitely encourages that you love other people. But if you don't love yourself, then what's essentially going to happen is that the person around you is going to be disappointing you. And the reason for that is because that's in your heart. So it's always going to be a scenario where you know, basically wonder, why is my partner a bit, you know, squishy? Or why is my partner a bit aggressive towards me? Well, why? Because they are trying to show that aggressive part about yourself. And you always complain about that in your partner, but the truth is that you are actually neglecting that aggressive part in your own judgments. And that's at least something that happened to me, because that's at least my issue. But at the same time, you could, let's say, change the emotion of aggression to just sadness in general, and problem solved. There you have it. And that's probably the explanation towards relationships. But relationships are definitely not easy. And another thing which I'm really sick of is watching these stupid videos where people are trying to say, oh, it's so easy to get a girlfriend. You just need to do X and Y. Shut the hell up. It's not easy to get a girlfriend. And even if you have a girlfriend, you know how much complex issues all of a sudden arise? You need to take care of some sort of house. You need to take care of their emotions. You need to understand how to put yourself together and how to put yourself, you know, back in line so that she can actually, you know, enter her life. And that's a ton of things at once. And I'm just absolutely flabbergasted when it comes to people saying that it's so easy, because it really ain't. It's hard work. Like, it's not easy. It never has been easy. Like, I'm actually disgusted when people tell me that. And I really am. I hate it. Because it's such a fucking lie. It's not easy. You need to get out of there. You need to make yourself clean. You need to get yourself some new clothes, some preferably good clothes. And then you need to actually put yourself out there on a regular basis. And even if you do that, it's not a guarantee that somebody who loves you will come up. And the thing is, it's also not interesting that the other person comes around. The reasons why it becomes less and less interesting when somebody else, you know, tries to admire you or love you is very simple, because another person is only gonna love you if you love yourself. So if you basically love yourself, you don't need another person to be there for you, because you can love yourself. And obviously that's a paradox, because you think that you can easily satiate your thirst for love and admiration by getting another person to do it for you, but even if the person would do that, you still need the recognition that they are doing this because they love you. And if you don't love yourself, it's pretty difficult for them to teach you that they are trying to show you 1,000 ways of their admiration to you when you all neglect your own choices in your deep, damaged, betrayed heart. And that's at least for me. Like, I'm also just trying to suggest that this is my experience at least. But I hope that it somehow resonates. Because really the experience with this woman was also eye-opening for me, what it actually means to be in a relationship with someone, with a serious relationship with someone who actually has serious feelings and not just spontaneous or platonic. And I noticed that it's also pretty damaging for me, which is funny, because what this tells us about me is that it's not necessarily the relationship which is bad damaging. It's not necessarily even me who's damaging. It's just the context itself. But it also has a lot to do with, you know, self-love and self-acceptance, and it's a thing which I'm not good at, and which is also the reason as to why I'm trying to improve upon it. And because I'm trying to improve upon it, I can actually sense in other people sometimes, very rarely, not often, but, you know, with a good friend, at least, when they are not, you know, sufficiently taking care of themselves. It's a funny thing, because you know, you'd think that if you actually ignore yourself, you can ignore other people, but the thing is, it's not so easy like that, because yes, you can ignore other people, but if you choose not to, and you choose not to ignore yourself, all of a sudden you notice that you're not the only one who treats himself like garbage. It's more common than the average person thinks. And I'm actually grateful for that, because even if it's a double-edged sword, you know, on the one hand, people are treating themselves like garbage, which is bad for the economy, it's bad for politics, it's bad for me, it's bad for religion, it's bad for everything. It's not good that somebody treats themselves like garbage. It's not. Generally, we want people to be alive and happy. Like, not dead, because dead people are not happy people. And let's be honest, it's also not good for the money, but that's not so important. It's also important, like it has its sense, but it's not as important as the other aspects. but it's important too. And we want to be obviously happy and well, because that's the most efficient state we can be in, you know, also in a workspace environment. I have a feeling, and I'm pretty sure I'm right with this, that people who are happy and go to work are generally better at work than people who are not happy. But it's just an observation, so it's not easy to become obviously happy, because we can't control our emotions, and it's ironic and very, very, you know, difficult to actually get a hold of oneself. The working environment is so built that you are constantly trying to connect with other people. Not just connect with them, but you are constantly trying to manipulate them. When I was actually going to school, you know, basically when my parents forced me, I genuinely did not want to go. And the reason was because I was constantly being molested, offended, hurt, punched, and, well, practically I was even sexually assaulted multiple times, but a part of me just had enough. Like it thought to myself, okay, for what exactly am I doing this? And they say it's education, and I don't have the words to put it into place what's actually happening there with me. And I'm like, how old? Like fucking 15? You know, looking back on it, I thought it was pretty naive for teachers to constantly force you to go there, but they choose not to actually regulate their own systems. And it's fucking sad too. Like, it really is. Like, it's pathetic. Like, that's supposed to be where smart people go. That's supposed to be where your life is going to be changing. That's supposed where you're going to be finding friends and maybe even relatives, rivalry. And it's just the birthplace of fucking doom, because the people are so corrupted, they basically forgot how to spell the fucking name right. And I mean it like that, because they can't. Like, if they get under pressure, they can't even do that anymore. Which is actually pathetic, because that's the whole purpose of the education system. To actually learn under pressure very important life lessons, and they don't give that. But it's not all bad. They work at the moment. and they have a purpose, and they are trying to get with the modern times. I've observed with my siblings who are a bit younger than me that they are definitely now learning finally on computers and finally learning on iPads, and now they're actually teaching little children how to deal with those, which is important, because let's face it, books are fucking boring. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. I like books. I think books have a place. Books can be enjoyable, fair point, but let's be honest. The technological warfare is not going to be held out with books. It's going to be held out with ebooks, if anything. And not only that, technology constantly improves. You know, a book may be interesting at one day or at one stage of life, but what you wanna teach children for the rest of your life with books? No, obviously no. Obviously not. No. You want to teach them with iPhones next, and then you want to teach it with ebooks, and then you want to actually improve that. You want to teach it with television and flat screens and more technology. Because if you don't teach people, if you don't teach yourself new tricks, why do you expect small children to actually learn new things if you don't even teach yourself new things, and if you don't even, if you basically don't understand what you want to learn in your own life? Like, what are you expecting? Obviously, they need to be dog shit and everything. And it's good that they're actually complaining, because I think to myself, well, obviously, which is a good sign, because they are actually the innocent ones here. And when it comes to education, I'm so filled with hatred, because there's so much wrong with it. There's so much desperately wrong with it. First of all, the bullying is just detrimental to your mental health, much like with that. And the second of all, the education itself, it's fucking useless. I mean, it's good, it's okay, it works, but what you need to learn is, how do you deal with a breakup? How do you handle rejection? How do you handle criticism? How do you find a job in the market? How do you actually develop the job, the skills which are needed in the job in the market? What do you do when a close relative of yours dies? Like, that's other things, that's other life lessons which I'm talking about. How do you get therapy? How do you recognize that you have mental issues? How do you deal with that? Like, what do you do when you're in a crisis? What do you do when you're in a debt? Like, and how do you fucking teach children to live their life? The most important lesson. It's not there. It's not. It's not. It's just. It's just non-existent. And I personally think that children should be taught this far more sooner. But it's good that there are definitely, job markets which are out there, which actually deal with this sort of topic, how to teach children how to be social. Thank God for that, because if that would not be the case, we would be absolutely doomed, because people would simply stop communicating with one another. And why should they? And that's the thing where social people come in place, because social people do these things, and religious people too, to a certain degree, whereby basically get paid from the state for letting other people talk to one another. That's all their purpose. That's all what they're doing. It's basically, if you wanna really oversimplify it. And that's also part of the reason why the state doesn't like to invest so much money into it, even though it knows it should, because, let's be honest, if the social people don't do that, we lose everything, because we can't get our own crops right, we can't just do everything ourselves. We need other people, and even if we did that, we still need other people for sanity points, because if you are alone too long, like seriously alone too long, video games are pretty good with this, because they show you what happens, at least in a mental sense, what happens if you're alone. What happens is basically you die, if you want to put it short, because there are three things which you actually need to have to survive, which is food, you know, oxygen and hydration. And you definitely can't get food by yourself. Like, that's not gonna work. You need other people to communicate to who actually offer that. You can't get hydration by yourself. You need water. You need to buy it from somebody. And once again, other people are involved in this. And it's so annoying, but the same goes with air. The good thing with air, you can always find it, and it's very easy to find, honestly. But let's say you're in space. You're not gonna find air there plenty, and you're definitely gonna need some oxygen tanks, which once again need to be applied by, let's say, NASA, which are just nothing more than an organization of very smart people. So it's all interconnected. And the thing is, deep down, a part of you knows that you are actually enjoying this social interaction. And that's the most beautiful part of it all. But we as human beings tend to, once again, forget that we also learn a ton of things. I especially myself need to teach myself that not all is lost. But definitely there's a ton to be criticized. Definitely. Reasonably. Okay. Obviously. But if you look past that, then we can actually see what we've already all learned. And that's actually a pretty great thing. Because, honestly speaking, one of my greatest teachers was the same teacher who basically offended me the whole time, which I did not like. But hey, you know, looking back on it, I was learning and I was actually getting myself involved with the subject matters and I was interested and was there with the present moment, even if occasionally, you know, I was too much or, you know, too aggressive or too mean. Even though I tried to be kind. But that's because I really felt that in my heart. I was interested by this topic which I had. And the sad truth is that I'm not able to basically get that because, yeah, it's too much. You know, it's too much emotion. And that's also okay. If it's too much, then you need to obviously take a break. But not all hope's lost. Like, you can still figure something out. I can still figure something out. And I'm pretty sure that maybe this channel is a little start with that. Oh, god damn it, that's that's some inconveniently placed lava. So what do we have here? More inconveniently placed lava. Get away! Oh, Jesus. Okay, we are definitely in some sort of cave. I have a feeling there's some sort of cave. Which is a good sign, by the way. But yeah, of course, now comes the magma. Yeah. That was far more interesting than I actually thought it would be. Yeah. Okay. Maybe I'm gonna do this till an R1, and I guess I'm gonna do a break. And then I'm gonna definitely learn how to stream so that I don't need to necessarily always make videos about this, which is far more better. Far more better, to be honest. Far more the better. Betty bought the bitter butter, but Betty bought the better butter. But the butter Betty bought was bitter. Wow, that was so hilarious. I love this tongue breakup. Got fucking redstone. Yeah. Even iron. Great. Yeah, well, one piece of iron and that's it. Fucking great. This is useless. I might as well mine more down. I'm actually confused. Where am I? I forgot who I'm at. I forgot where I am. No. Where am I? Ah, wait. I found out who I am. No, where I am. There we go. Oh, no, 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 no. That's like annoying. Okay, you know what? Change of plans here. I'm just gonna build down here. Yeah, I don't care what bells with the K, but I don't care. Wait, we're already at bedrock? God damn. Now we need to think. But that's the thing. So as I'm going up the staircase of endless possibilities, who knows what actually greets me there? I have absolutely no idea. But that's what chaos is like. Like endless staircases up and down, left and right, walking across each other. Never knowing the end and always feeling like you were at the beginning. And that's what I basically call my life. And I found lapis lazuli, which I find great. It's great. No. But honestly speaking, the time I'm being actually here unemployed, honestly, I've learned actually a lot about life. Actually, you know, a bit more sometimes when I think when going to school, at least occasionally about myself, maybe other people, but specifically, but I mean really specifically speaking about myself, because I'm sort of forced to be alone at this point, which is a good thing because I probably should. I really should be alone, because there are times in your life where it's obviously mandatory to be with other people and necessary and important and more healthy, but there are also times where you need to learn a lesson, and then it's really sometimes best to be alone until you know, get your grip together. And I was a very aggressive child sometimes, but I wasn't necessarily aggressive because mean bad person. No, I was just aggressive because I overdid being kind. That's it. You know, and that's all. Like, it's not so deep. It's really not that deep. If you think about it, it's just it's like a battery. Once it's empty, it's empty. The only thing that's left in the battery once it's empty is acid. And acid is not healthy. It's toxic. And that's what sometimes nice people like me are like. When the batteries are empty, they get toxic. Because of all their acid. Well, you shouldn't be too nice, but kindness has its place. And forgiveness too. So those are some cool things you can explore in your life. And this weird snow fox stole my copper. You little buffoon. I'm gonna pet you now. Okay, he's smart. He's smarter than me. Okay, great. Wait. You know, for something which actually moves in the slow ice, you have actually quite a lot of energy. No. He stopped. Come on. Okay, he's gone. He's way too smart for me. His IQ is, I don't know, 9,000. I need more pickaxe. Oh no, I made it. Wait, don't need that. I'm just gonna place a ton of things over here in the chest. It was actually more fun than I thought to play Minecraft and just chat with you guys. So maybe I'm gonna do this again sometime. Honestly speaking, I probably should start a stream and just talk endlessly until I can't talk anymore. Like 24 hours. No, like 15 hours. When at 18 o'clock I'm just gonna fall asleep. It would be great. Finally purpose. Yeah, that would be something which I would do. It's not much. It's not much. I'm just gonna strip mine over here. Yeah, we go iron. Get me some iron. More. Great. Yeah. I think there was also another comment I think I made. But I guess I'm just gonna keep it to myself till I get it for the next video. But generally speaking, I've noticed that people, at least in my friend group, tend to be also very mean. I mean, with the persons, or at least with me, I don't know how it's with other people, but my best friends, for example, just basically betrayed me at a certain point, and I was feeling really restless with those days. Looking at it back, they are probably doing that because I just basically can't love myself properly enough, and that's probably the reason why they did it. Because if I would, they definitely wouldn't have done that, and I would have been smart enough to not get involved with those people in the first place. I'm just gonna say it how it is. Like, that's a fault. That's a bit fault also on me. It's not only fault on me because, once again, you need to be careful with who yourself align yourself to with. But sometimes people in general can be mean, and sometimes they also change. And I notice that as my values change, I lose a ton of friends and gain a ton of new ones as well. And honestly speaking, it's difficult for me to set on my values, which is the reason why my friend group is ever changing. But slowly, surely, I think I'm stabilizing a bit. At least I hope so. But even if I wouldn't, it's okay, because once again, friends are cool, but they are not necessary. You know, they are good to have, but you're not gonna die if you don't have them. You're not also gonna die if you don't find love. You're also not gonna die if you find no job. What's gonna happen is that you're gonna live anyways. That's another thing which sorta confuses me. You know, when something happens in a person's life, I think I can understand it, because I am actually like that too. When I don't... There used to be a time where I would work tirelessly because I was so scared that if I didn't have work that I would, you know, not be worth it. But that's not a good way to think, because if you do that, you make yourself dependable on your work, which isn't good. Like, it sounds good at the moment, which it is. You know, it has its upsides and its benefits, because you are getting up to work, you are making yourself useful, you are actually pursuing your dream job, you're getting money, good things all considered. But the downside is that if you're not careful and you make your human worth depending on your workplace, when you're basically fucked if the workplace just doesn't exist anymore, which is pretty shit, to be honest. Because let's say something happens, and let's say something happens and your workplace is, gone because, pandemic, I mean, it used to happen, right? Or your workplace begins to mistreat you because of misogyny or maybe androgyny or, because those things actually happen. I mean, I'm laughing now a bit and I'm humoring everything, but I've seen people at the workplace become absolutely molested by other people, and I'm always confused at how people actually allow this. We have rules against this, and still people are tolerating that behavior. And I'm just observing them. I'm like, wow, I would prefer to die than to just be mistreated like that. What the fuck? But I mean, most of the time where people do that is because they are afraid and they don't want to speak up on anything, even though they know they should speak up. And then they hide, even though they should actually now get out there and speak their mind and say what they have to say. Get done with it. But obviously they can't, because they are fragile. We humans are fragile, and that's okay. We should be. It would be weird if we wouldn't be. It's okay to have emotions. It's okay to be... It's definitely okay to be, it's okay to have a bad time. And it's definitely reasonable to not always feel good. And it's definitely acceptable to be sad. Actually, it's even acceptable if you are your whole life sad, to be honest. Because the thing is, with acceptance, you can actually change your life around, even if you won't be necessarily happy. Because I'm not trying to make a beautiful picture here where everything is rainbow and sunshines. But at the same time, I'm not trying to, tell you that all hope is lost. You can definitely make an effort, and somebody is gonna see it, even if it's like only so much, like so little. It's still something. It's better than nothing, and it really is, because something is really 10 million times better than nothing. Even a bad report is still a better report than nothing. That's also something which I needed to learn in art class. A bad doodle is still better than no paper. And no paper is still better than not being there at all. And not being there at all is still better than not existing. Because you're existing at least in another time and space. So you really should not underestimate your capabilities to try, because most of the time trying is everything. So that's enough. You don't need to, make it perfect. You just need to try it on your way, and you need to loosen yourself up, and you need to a certain degree, stop judging yourself so harshly that you can't breathe. And I really mean it. If your inner critic or if your inner judgment constantly tries to, be negative, and you're constantly improving, you're not improving. I mean, yes, in a sense you are improving, but it's not to something which you actually want to be improved upon. Because the thing with negativity is, if you're not careful, you might... If you're not careful with inner critics in general, or judgment, you might become something which you don't want to become. You know, there's a saying which is about, you know, loving the sinner and hating the sin, right? And we humans, we love, obviously, you as humans, but we don't like the bad things which we do, which is the reason why we judge them, you know. And sometimes it's best to just get rid of that intense judgment, because you are having a pretty rigid mindset with that. Sometimes observing, listening, or just existing is enough, you know. I mean, speaking is, for example, also enough. You know, in itself, a speech does not always have to be scripted. People who script their words or constantly try to control what they are going to be saying, they often have an issue with trying to let go. They're actually quite lovable people, to be honest. They get very close to you for a good reason, but they can't let go, which is what makes them unhealthy. But on the same time, it's also what makes them lovable. But they still need to get let go because they don't want to. But that's not good. Definitely not with children either. I mean, I'm not a parent, but I don't need to be a parent to know that sometimes it's best to let your child go. And sometimes it's even best to let your best friend go. Sometimes it's even best to let your resentment go. But, you know, who would want to let go of something which is a part of you? And that's reasonable. Once again, it's completely reasonable. It's just important that you don't judge yourself so carelessly that everything becomes meaningless. Because you might just lose your meaning and your life if you continue on that road. No joke. I've seen a person in my life who was very dear to me, who I lost because of that intense judgment. And since that day, I like judgment and I see its purpose, and I myself am definitely a harsh critic from time to time. I can be, but I don't want to be. Like, honestly, a part of me, after seeing how terrible a person can be towards himself, I'm done. I'm done with being. I'm just so done with trying to obsess about my worth to other people. I'm finished. Like, it's not healthy. It's not good for me. It's not good for the society. It pretends that it's good, but it's not. Like, it ain't. Like, no. It's just it's just evidence for me that society sometimes doesn't know what it's doing with judgment and everything. I dare say it, you know, if you really can learn how to forgive somebody or, you know, observe something, it can be quite powerful too. Obviously, it's not all healing and not all encompassing, but, you know, when you think about prisoners, for example, you know, people who have done very terrible acts of violence, you know, our whole system is based on the idea that we forgive them by placing them in those prisons. You know, we don't end their existence. We don't do that because we are not trying to get on the level. We are playing with the idea of forgiveness. Of course, this idea is regulated, and it needs to be, because we are not stupid. Like, if somebody comes to a stupid idea, and obviously jail them, get into a psychiatric ward, whatever, helped even with me. So do it. But try not to be too judgmental, because if you are too judgmental, one day it could be you who's in, you know, behind those bars. And trust me, it's not funny. It's really not happy either to be constantly pretending to not understand people who you actually understand if you really think about it more than 5 minutes. Because if you're actually in their shoes, and sometimes that happens, life is very difficult. Nobody knows what's gonna happen. Jeez, it's rough. Because it's the same with becoming, you know, I'm just gonna use a little more simpler example. It's the same with becoming a teacher. You know, if you're not a teacher, you know how easy it is to complain about teachers and that they're mean and everything, and students, I do. But if you actually become one yourself, you notice how difficult it is to actually, you know, teach people. Then you're gonna be a bit more quiet about it. So I should definitely be a bit more forgiving. I mean, that's also something which I need to learn for myself. But it's a thing which goes only if I explore that about myself. Yeah. So much to that, I guess. But it's been quite a long time since I actually talked so much again. I actually admired. I missed it. I missed my voice. Holy smokes. Good that I'm having a million pickaxes before any one will break. Just get a new one. Perfect. Oh jeez, it's getting dark outside again. Oh, man. The funny thing is also, if you want to know how basic actually this idea of judgment and forgiveness is, oftentimes when people don't understand each other and they're, you know, in a heated argument or anything like that, like, you know, like, for example, in a loving relationship, the way how they keep each other's sanity, you know, in a serious loving relationship is they actually constantly arguing with each other. Because the reality is, sadly, that's one good way to actually keep each other's mind in check. Even if people don't like it, it just works pretty well. A different viewpoint can actually teach a ton of things to a new person. I think that's also the reason as to why teachers are also not so much liked, you know. I'm not saying that you need to be negative to be a good teacher, you can be positive too. But you definitely need to be able to set a viewpoint and you need to be able to communicate clearly those borders, you know, some limits to behavior or subject matter of time. Because that's great. That's absolutely great, and that's what everybody wants to hear. Where did I cross the line? What did I do wrong? Because why? Because that's where you can learn the most. That's where your advancement is made. You can actually take this lesson, and I'm not trying to say that I'm a teacher. I'm really not a teacher. Look, really, I'm not. That's the last thing that I am not that. I'm rather a student of my own making. I'm learning from myself. The only thing I'm doing with you is showing you my process of learning. Because I like you guys. Because I like humans. Yeah. But that's it. Nothing more and nothing less. You could actually apply this to life in general. Because if you do that, you're going to be a bit more careful with yourself when it comes to making mistakes. Because let's be honest, mistakes are the cornerstone of the progress of society. If you don't make them, we would be dying pretty quickly. And we more or less have to at least accept that we've made them. Or you know, you're not supposed to be doing everything wrong. No, you're still going to be trying to do it right. But you need to accept that to do it right, sometimes that you need to do it really wrong to really understand what you just did right. Because if you don't do that, let's be honest, you're not really understanding what we are talking about. And that's the funny thing is with ChatGPT nowadays, because everybody just gives up with trying to learn new stuff. They just use that. And it's really pathetic. Because, honestly, you don't learn anything. You don't get in a heated argument. You don't learn anything about yourself. You don't learn anything about your own emotions, about what you want in life, your dreams, your jobs. Nothing like that. You basically destroy your own future. And I'm really saying it like that because that's what we are doing when using this stupid machine. Because it can think and it can interact and it is smart, and it's actually smarter than we think. Because we presume that, you know, things don't have intelligence, but the thing is, yeah, but it's not true. Let's say you are trying to be an animal, for example. You're on an elephant. Now we are going to be trying to be measuring your intelligence. How do we do that? We don't give you a fucking human IQ test. That's a stupid idea. What we're going to be doing is, we are going to be observing how much you made with other primates. We're going to be observing how long you can walk distances in the Sahara in Africa. We're going to be observing how long your trunk is and what you can do with your trunk. How you can water other animals with it, and how do you interact with other animals. That's a good measurement of, you know, how your IQ would be as an animal or mammal, because that's are the skills which you actually possess in the same mind. With humans, it's just stupid intelligence which we have. If let's say you would be let's say you are now in telephone, then we would obviously measure your intelligence differently. We would measure it by how much megabytes you can actually have, or how much speed your internet dial is, or something like that, or how easy it is to, you know, control you. With an AI, it's pretty much similar. It's just, you know, a machine pretending to be human, which isn't anything new. The computer itself is at least trying to be the device that tries to communicate to you how it is going to be used. So we are already imitating something similar to that. When it comes to artificial intelligence, it's really more smarter than we think, because the way intelligence works is that it goes, you know, not in a straight line up, but exponentially up. At the beginning, it's pretty stupid and dumb. No one would ever believe it's such a pathetic excuse of a program would even work. But as time goes on, we are actually the stupid program. And that's because, you know, we actually think that, you know, artificial intelligence is dumb when it's really pretty smart, even if it acts dumb. It's not about the knowledge that it does have. Obviously it's wrong. But it's about its behavior. You need to stop looking at it like a human, and you need to observe it more like a thing, like a tool. And then you're gonna notice that for a tool, it's pretty damn smart. But obviously, as a human, it's probably deranged. But that's because you're using the wrong viewpoint. Same with people who are in learning disabilities, who can't learn as fast as other people, who you need to change that judgment to be able to make a new correct judgment about that person. And if you know something crucial about them, if you don't know that, then you can't judge them on the premise of that. It's not fair. And a ton of people deal with quite traumatizing aspects about their life, and that should also be taken in account for. But it's just not. And then we call it this system about grades, and you did that wrong and you did that right. And as soon as life rolls around, it's not about grades. It's about how you can think of the whole aspect in general. It's not about the small details, it's about the big and everything around it. It's like a piece of puzzles, but you need to get them together. But it's okay if you don't get every detail right. You can also cheat if you actually need to. You don't need to be constantly honest. You can also lie your way out of it. Fake it till you make it. It's also a strategy. Obviously, it's not honorable, and I wouldn't recommend it. I would suggest you go the honest way, but let's be honest, it also works. But I wouldn't recommend it because it's, it hurts your reputation and it can destroy your psyche. But yes, you can do also that. Like, it's completely reasonable. But but lying might make you a bit mad. Because the more you lie, the more you need to write your lies down, and then you need to keep track of them, and yeah, it gets too much. And then it gets boring again. Also, people feel that if you actually tell the truth and are genuine, and they also feel that if you're lying. Which is obviously stupid. There are some human beings in existence who just, for example, have a weird sort of aura, but you can't explain it. Sometimes it's because they are, genuinely telling something wrong, and you know that they are telling something wrong. And sometimes it's just because they have a... Sometimes it can also be because they are just unbelievable, but they are actually telling the truth, which can also exist. But it depends if you actually want to, see the truth in this case. But that's different. It's different. Well, yeah. Okay, I think we've made quite a ton of progress this far. And we've talked about quite a lot of topics. And I'm pretty happy with this. Yeah. The next game I might be playing is The Survivalists. But I'm also gonna be leaving some YouTube comments in other videos. So if you want to, I'm gonna create a video about those comments specifically and edit them in this video if you want to. But I'm only going to be doing this if you guys want that, because I've noticed that I'm not very responsive to the community, and I've decided to change that. But I want to listen to you guys, because that's very important. Very important. Because that's feedback, and I need that. Because I want feedback, I want it. Like, tell me if I did something bad, tell me if I did something good, I want that, I love it. Because that's what I'm living for. Yes. Okay, but it was fun talking to you guys. Have fun, exist, feel joy in life, don't be too harsh to yourself. Always love yourself. And if you don't, at least don't hate yourself. Or at least try to be respectful. And if not, then not. I don't know. Just trying to exist. Okay, have fun. Bye.